This whole doing your own selfie videos in confined spaces. How do you like my little decoration here? I think that's sweet. I just realized my little reflector light isn't quite right. Gotta get it up and through. That's not gonna work. Hey, this isn't where I clicked on the record button here. Okay, it's about 1 o'clock on Friday. I woke up thinking it was Saturday today. It went down to -9 early last night. No, early this morning, like around midnight or so, it started really dipping. When I got up this morning, I felt it. -9. That's what they say outside. Sometimes it gets more, sometimes less, but it was fucking cold. And surprisingly, I handled it pretty good so far. I've had nothing freeze up on me yet. This time around, earlier this year, I did have some freeze up problems. The biggest problem I've run into so far is that the blankets I got on my bed are so heavy that although I was warm, it was uncomfortable, but I couldn't really get that nice fluffy feeling where I hate feeling like there's a lot of weight on me when I'm sleeping, okay? Plus I got really wide shoulders and like really wide shoulders and long arms, okay? I just got a notification on Google Chrome here. Someone liked the walnut shells dried and methanol start work. Oh yeah, walnut shells dried and methanol start works for me. I posted on one of them firebox videos on the bushcraft stuff about walnut shells because like I got a lot of black walnuts here, and a few years ago I started collecting them. And although I ate quite a few, I found that with my wrists being so bad, like I have a really hard time holding. You need to hold something pointed, like a little tiny knife or a pick or something. And these shells are all fiddly. I still got a little bit of staining on my hands. I don't know if you can see it. There's like a brown. Okay, that's walnut. It was about a week ago I was doing it, and it's still there. A few years ago, I was doing the walnuts, and while my hands were wet, I went like this, scratched all over my head. I had dark brown patches all over me. It was freaking. It burned too, like the skin kind of peeled off. I think there's some medicinal qualities to that, but regardless, the point was, all these walnuts. So I started collecting them in buckets and putting them all over. I got one area where I built the land up almost a foot, just with walnuts. And as you put stuff on top of it, it packs down, but like the ground stayed up, so them walnuts are probably still down there. And if not, I don't know what's going on, but it's holding its space. So I kept doing it, and then it's been like what, 5 years I've done that in a row now, where I've brought at least maybe half a dozen bucket loads, 5-gallon pails filled with them, and a lot of them I got this metal grating. I just put the walnuts on top, and I walk over top of it, get all the husks off, leave some beautiful black dirt underneath later. Excellent soil conditioner. And the walnut shells I'd find all over the place emptied. The animals would take them. So I thought, why not pile them up near where I know, as I call it, the little Chippy family lives. There's some squirrels and chipmunks and stuff. And I've noticed that rats like them too, but rats have a really hard time getting through the shell. And if you've got any, within an earshot of you, it can be really annoying listening to them go chewing on it, scratching on it. And they can only get this little tiny bit, and then they discard it. Whereas the chipmunks and stuff, they'll get right in there. So I thought, we need an area where you can have the rats and the chipmunks kind of coordinating, coming together to get these walnuts. You'll see where I'm going in a minute, because this gets cool. And this post just reminded me of it. So I put a bucket here, a bucket there. I've got little holes I've dug in the ground. By little holes, I mean like 2-3 foot round box areas, okay? Because I got some ideas in mind, but I thought to start off, I'll put the walnuts in there. And I'm getting little areas where the ground just swales down, and the walnuts from the trees will roll into these little. So I've capitalized on that by digging little trenches so the walnuts fall off the tree. I'm on quite a sloping bank here, okay? So the walnuts will fall down, and I clear the brush and everything out of the way so the ground is fairly clear, which is good for new plant life coming up. Turns over the soil. And from when I got here until now, I've watched soil that nothing would grow in that was just ugh. And it stunk. Like, it stunk. A little bit like gasoline and sewage mixed. Like it stunk. And even I had some garlic that would grow in it, and I had some other plants that I tried eating from it, even some berries, and they tasted like fucking crap. Like they tasted terrible. I don't know. They just tasted bad, okay? I get the same berries on the other side of the valley here, and they were delicious, so I don't know. Anyway, we're at a point now where we got some really good soil there. I'm looking forward to getting into the garden this year, down the forest. We're turning it into a garden. I've got some areas scaffolded out where it was really difficult getting up and down the hill. Now, it's still difficult, but I made it a lot easier, and I made spots where I can sit down, relax, even a spot where you could actually lay down if you had the proper equipment with you. Like, you know, you'd need something to pad you, but you wouldn't want to just lay down on the ground and get wet. But it's starting to turn out really nice, although still rough. And unless I took you down and showed you what I was doing, it's just like, oh, this looks like a little bit of a clearing in the forest. There's much more than that. Hang on a sec. This is my lunchtime, and I've got to make sure before I go outside I get at least a liter of beer inside me, or else I can't handle the fucking cold. Oh, I already lit it. So anyway, I'm getting ready to go out right now, and part of it is I'm going to collect fuel cells, or fuel for my little tin cans. Like, okay, you got a tin can left over from your tuna or whatever, right? Okay, I make ashtrays with them, use them as ashtrays. And maybe later I'll put some alcohol in them, and you can make a really easy fucking alcohol stove just using that, just some alcohol. You can throw a little bit of toilet paper, blah, blah, blah. And what happened is one day I'm doing that, and I thought, what would happen? I was outside, thought, just out of curiosity, and I put 4 or 5 walnuts into one of these tuna cans, and I put 1 teaspoon, just a little teaspoon of methanol on it, and I lit it. Now, these are dried walnuts. A couple of them were cracked open. I left the nut meat inside of it, which, believe me, I'll get to that later. That stuff burns like it's like candle wax. It's freaking amazing. So anyway, a teaspoon of alcohol is gone in like a minute or two at the most. Okay, especially when it's cold, it'll be gone. So I put them in there. 30 minutes later, it was still burning. No smoke at all. They looked black. It looked like they weren't burning, but it was giving off heat. As soon as you blowed on it or any wind hit it, you see a little bit of glow of red. I couldn't believe the heat these walnuts were putting out and how long they went down to just a little tiny bit of ash. And I thought, okay, all I got in that tin can is walnut ash. So I got to look into the walnut husk shells and that. So look at all the different things you can get from these walnuts. Now here's what gets really cool. By me putting the walnuts where those animals are, okay, the rats are happy, the chipmunks are happy, because I can go and get them, you know, a year's supply of food with one trip over to the walnut tree around the other side of the property here. There's walnut trees all along the cliff and that here, and the chipmunks, they jump all over. But, you know, if you're living in a tree, and at the very bottom of that tree, somebody's dug a hole and filled it with walnuts that you just go down and get anytime you want. Now, it gets even better. They'll go and gather these nuts after the husk is all gone because they don't want to fuck around with that husk part, most of the animals, all right? Some of them will, like squirrels will, but they don't want to. So if you get them and then walk on them and leave a whole bunch of them ready to go, these animals are very happy. Now, what's happened is there's a chipmunk and a squirrel that live up in a tree just over the edge of the ravine out back here, and underneath it, I've got this little area that comes down like a little bowl, okay? It's right under their nest, and it slopes down into this bowl coming down the hill. So, make a long story short, every couple of weeks, I get a fucking bucket load of walnut shells sitting on this spot in the ground, and it's fairly sheltered, so they don't really get wet. So I picked them up and I bring them in, and I got a toaster oven that I put a big thick aluminum plate on top of, okay? It's got a little ridge along it, and I lay all the walnut shells all on top of that. Now, sometimes the rats will come in, they'll take the odd one because they're already cracked open. See, the chipmunks and the squirrels have already broken these open. In a lot of cases, they've cleaned them out, but a lot of them still have a little bit of meat left. So the rats will come in and take the ones with a bit of meat, and generally, they don't want to go very far with it, okay? So I've made little spots where it's convenient for them, and I find all these shells broken up, all chewed up, the remains left there, nice and dry. The other day, I took about 8 shells in a soup can about the size of a beer can here, and I put them in it, poked some holes around the bottom, just high enough that I could put a couple of drops of alcohol in there, right? And filled the thing up with walnuts. I think there's about 8, definitely not more than 10 walnuts. That fucking thing burned for 2 hours. For the first hour and a half, intensely hot. And then after that, it just kind of. I thought to myself about adding thermal mass to that and some kind of a portable unit you could take from room to room, place to place, or maybe build a couple. Or maybe they're just disposable like lighters. You just fill them with these walnuts. I mean, the heat intensity potentially could get enough that you could vaporize a tin can. I mean, it could melt aluminum, no problem. I tried putting an aluminum chimney on it made out of beer cans, and from the bottom up, it just started melting right into it, which I thought was really cool. Anyway, for people that are homeless or people that are struggling outside, and especially those that are trying the bushcraft stuff and the survivor game stuff, that's definitely something to look at. Because in southern Ontario, especially in the Boy Scout region area here of St. Catharines, we have a lot of walnut trees. And the best part isn't about the fuel or about the nuts and all the different things you can do with that, like scrubbing, cleaning, staining wood. I did a test on some wood outside that I stained with it. I just grabbed the walnut husk when it was still green, rubbed this shit all over this piece of wood. 2 years later, the wood is preserved, like preserved. Whereas the wood around it, you can see it's starting to decay. I thought, oh, fuck, so easy. No, and they don't smell bad. They smell great. And when they're burning, oh my God, such a delicate, restful, beautiful, just almost a dreamy odor. And if you've never tried black walnuts locally, picked fresh off the tree, you don't need to roast them, dry them, nothing. You can eat them in any kind of state. I've had them soaking in buckets of brine, buckets of water. I've had them dried right out with the husk on. I've had it where I cleaned the stuff off. I've dried them, roasted them. I've tried them in like probably 50 or 60 different ways. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but in as many ways as I could think of. And you know what I found? There's no best way to do them. It's whatever's easiest and convenient for you at the time, because of all the nut meat that I've ever tried in my life, I mean, walnuts, when I buy from the store, always give me little, way back on my tongue, I get these fucking little bump sores on the back, and they burn and sting. It's like some kind of weird allergic reaction. I get it from bananas if they're not ripe, too. And it turned me off of walnuts completely, and I almost didn't even bother trying it until I read this, or I didn't read it. I seen one of the rats just jumped back there and made a noise. This guy was laying down in his driveway with a hammer smashing walnuts, and he says, this might sound crazy enough, but I got a lot of these trees, and he says, if you've never tried them, you got to. Believe it or not, that convinced me to go and try them. I mean, I'm sitting there, I didn't even bother picking the meat out. And then after I tried them, they're not like walnuts you buy in the store, period. Like, they don't taste anything like them. You know what it tastes like? An artificial vanilla flavoring compared to like the real vanilla bean. The difference between store-bought walnuts and all that I've ever exposed to in my life and these ones I've got right now is very similar. It's like these walnut, and the cool thing is every walnut tree in the region has a different, if you had 2 different trees side by side, you could take both those walnuts. You wouldn't be able to tell which came from which tree, maybe not at first, but you would tell there's a difference in taste between them. I've almost found that every walnut I eat has a slightly different taste, but I've never had one yet that tasted bad. And that to me is something. Plus the fact that the amount of walnuts I can eat comfortably and enjoy is about 8, and then I've had my, I need something else to eat. That's not enough. You can't just gorge on this stuff, okay? And it's a lot of work. To eat 8 walnuts, from picking them till they're digested or till they're in your mouth, can be almost 4 or 5 hours. So like you end up getting a bunch at once and then dry them. So right now I have some that are still whole that I've got drying for myself. I burnt some the other night and tried those. They were excellent. They almost tasted like hazelnut. I thought, if I was to mash these up and put them in coffee, holy shit, that would be good. And you think of the nutrient value, and here's the other thing: as I was picking the meat out, sometimes I get a piece that was a little bit, you could tell it was a little extra greasy. I'd smush it into my fingers. I had one walnut that was like maybe 1/4 of the nut, and I squished it up in my palm. The amount of oil that generated was enough to cover both my hands completely, to the point where over the top of cigarette smoke and dirt, all I could smell was creamy, buttery walnut. So anyway, the walnuts, they're a lot of work to crack and break open and everything. So these animals, they break them open, crack them. I found if you put the whole walnut into the tin can, and you got to put a lot of fucking holes in. I don't recommend anything yet, because I've got an idea about what they call it, the Canadian candle. Anyway, you got, like, say these are sticks, okay, some chunks of wood, right? You assemble them like this into your tin can, right? So they're all like this, but you want enough space. Okay, you got air coming up in between them, kind of like with a wood chip idea, but much better. So you got a tin can, you got these all piled up inside, and you're out in the woods. You're not really going to be carrying around methanol or anything else. I mean, eventually I gotta figure out a way to get beer in the forest. I just realized as I'm doing this, I sat here to prepare to get ready to go out and do what I got to do today. And explaining this is kind of putting it into focus. It's kind of got me thinking. You know, our daily reports, the 30-second rant things that I do. Just getting started. I mean, I've been working on this for many, many years. I have no idea where it's really going to go or where it develops, but just to put it in perspective, I was listening to SurvivorGame just before I clicked on here. Yeah, Boston Rob. Holy fuck. The one guy I can remember besides that Jeff, what's his name? Jeffy P, the host, right? And Amber. And they're both being featured not even a few hours ago. It just got posted, and it's like, hey, that is so cool. Those guys are still on there. And then to find out it's been 20 years. I used to fantasize about being on that show. I used to, I kick ass. I fucking know, and I got the personality. Everyone's going to like me. Oh, wait a minute. And as I watched, I began to wonder if I had the skills to do anything. Anything. So here I am at camp. I got the skill to make the most unique background you have ever seen. Isn't that true? I mean, you can't beat this, can you? Try and mask that. And it changes every freaking time that I do a video. You can't match the background because it's always moving and changing. Always. Always. And rapidly. Oops. I'm knocking my power supply over there. Ah, don't do that. If this tips over, that's the end of this video. I'll have to pick it up later because I'm not going to redo. There we go. Okay, that should be good for now. Whew. So I'll be going out today. I'm going to pick up some of them walnuts that are pre-broken and crushed. They clean them right off. Because if you got any shit on them or anything, it's like it's no good for burn. And here's the other thing. You can do them whole when the animals will poke holes all over them, right? Usually 2 on each side. So you end up with these double holes that the air can literally get right in and round through. So it's a little tricky to light them, but you figure you were to put, I don't know, a couple of ounces of alcohol in the bottom of a small tin can, and then put you could probably pile 4 walnuts, small ones, one on top of the other. By the time that top one catches, okay, it burns down, them others will continue to burn. They get so hot and the air just... Them cans, you got to actually put one inside of another because they get way too hot. And I put one inside of another and then put some fiberglass around it and then put it inside of a big tin can. I got almost, I'd have to double check. I remember the last time I reported there was over 2 hours burn on it, and I was fucking floored because I thought I'd gone out like an hour earlier. And it had boiled a pot of water, and it had heated up my pan of stew. Yeah, I think that's all I did. I did the water, the stew, Yeah, and then after that, I just let it run. Provide a little bit of warmth for a while. Yeah, so I'm going to pick up pine cones, tree sap, uh, cherry bark. Many of you might like the birch bark for starting fires, but I don't know if you've ever tried cherry bark. It is fucking amazing and on par with it. Honestly, I think it's on par. Um, perhaps, perhaps a birch tree might start at a lower temperature. I'd have to look into that. But from my experience, I haven't found much difference between the two yet, although I've been generally working with wet and substandard materials all the way through, kind of a worst case scenario, you know? So in doing the Survivor game, it's like, okay, what kind of wood are you going to be using? Is it about building heat and fire? Is it about building shelter? Like, what's the most important things that you need? For example, right now, I'm still getting right now, excuse me. Oh, holy fuck. That's part of the, I don't know, just after I got my tooth fixed there, the pain and all the irritation seems to be gone on that now, but I've been congested ever since. I keep getting, and I haven't had that for quite some time. It's kind of neat. I haven't really truly been sick here for quite a while either. I mean, where I'm sitting right now, there are rats literally this big. Okay, can you see both that? Yeah, they'll climb up and down this with their tails. They're probably close to that long. They're huge. Oh, that looks big in the cameras. You know what? There's no way to really show that. Okay, there's my face. They're about the size of my head. So is that saying I got a small head or they're big rats? Anyway, I'm picking up pine cones. If I can find pine cones that still have the pine nuts in, I put them in the toaster oven. A whole bunch of them on the tray, leave it on low heat. They all bloom and open up. You turn them upside down, the nuts just fall out. You get a big tray. I've had some of them are just tiny. They're the size of hemp seeds, okay? But they got a beautiful nutty flavor. I've ate them with no ill effect. I don't know if they're edible because I never really looked it up, but I've heard that pine nuts are edible. I just know that there's like so many different kinds out there that, hey, I don't know. You know, like certain, what is it called? Solanase? Like even potatoes. You know, I'm wondering if anything's poisonous. It's kind of like the motto, if you don't like it, don't do it. Right? If you like it, do it. So, I guess we'll have to leave it at that. The Dutch candle, or not the Dutch candle, the Canadian candle thing. Yeah, they were talking about the fireboxes. So, I was thinking of doing some hybrid with the walnuts and different bits of wood configured in a tight bundle and then sunk into the ground. I got a number of different ideas that I don't know how to really get into yet, but I figured by exploring them, and I kind of have to review all these videos. That's why I should make them a little shorter. I've got so many that are over half an hour to an hour long, then I can't even upload them. I watch them just to learn, but I never know. Sometimes I just randomly throw them on. And I'm thinking of doing a couple of live streams, getting a little more involved, connecting with the other players that are doing this kind of shit. But it's like I'm out there, it's like I don't know how to connect with anyone really. You know? You just do what you can do. So with that, by sitting here right now just babbling, my feet are starting to get cold. My hands are starting to get a little chilly. When that happens, like with it being cold out, they start tingling and then I can't fucking use them. Like you can't button your shirt, you can't wipe your ass, you can't do nothing. They just, fuck, it just did it. Damn. Oh. Fuck. Oh. Whew. My mother gets that a lot too, eh? Hand just jams and then it locks in a position you can't fucking move it. It just fuck. And when you're holding a cigarette, okay, that generally only happens when it's getting really cold, and like it is. I'm actually uncomfortable right now, so I'm gonna have to get moving around. I do have a little bit of heat in here to maintain above freezing so that my potatoes, which is one of my main supplies of food, I got a bunch of canned goods on top of a fridge that I'm really thinking of unplugging. I have a microwave, toaster oven, and a crock pot. And I've got a backup microwave in case this one breaks down, because this thing has been through. I've tortured this fucking beast, okay? I've tried everything in it. And I've tried duty cycles that are just ungodly with it. And it's actually rusting out on the inside. The door doesn't close properly, but the timer and keypad and everything work. And I can still heat a liter in about 5 minutes. It takes me about 5 to 10 minutes to make a full jar of coffee hot to that point. It's a 1 liter jar. Okay. I also got to shave my head. I want to try and make a little pan of water hot outside. Now, as it gets cold, how do you get your water? There's so many issues, you know? And what would be really cool is to get a team together, like the Survivor Series, and work it at a camp like this. Let's tie in some things that can make it so the average person at home in our area can do something. And I know there's something that people want in this area. Think about Dungeons and Dragons. People on their video games. They're on their cell phone 24/7 texting. Everybody wants to be important, and nobody is anyone, and we all feel lost, left out, lonely. I mean, let's face it. We can't compete with the big players that are out there, can we? Of course not, because they don't exist. And I can say I'm among those people that don't exist, because some of the work that some of those people do, us people never know about. Now, would any of you include yourself with me? Now, there's a question to ponder from Camp Serenity. I'm Dave, the barn boy, at 1:22 p.m., and it's colder than ice. And I'll be back after I've been outside, collected some of my supplies. I'm going to try and bring this device with me. I just realized I don't have to sit here and do it. I could take this anywhere. Oh, shit. Talk about crazy, right? All right, well, let's try that. We got mobile use of this. Okay, so I'm still plugged into the computer charging, so I guess you can't do that. All right, then. Until later. Have a good one.